Part 13. Man at the Top of the Food Chain. Author, Xionglang Guo. Chapter 121. The boss said impatiently, "Of course Tianjing is in the east. Why don't you call? If you don't call, don't hinder my business." Li Anping narrowed his eyes and gave the boss a cold look. Not bothering to talk nonsense with him, he directly slashed the opponent's neck with his hand knife, causing the opponent to faint. No one around him noticed at all, and even if he did, he could only see the boss himself lying on the table. It was impossible for ordinary people to see Li Anping's movements clearly. In fact, with Li Anping's current level 2 ability, the range of absorbing souls is a full 50 meters. Against ordinary people, just a thought can kill them. But he has no habit of killing innocent people indiscriminately. At this moment, Li Anping has gradually deviated from the so-called justice. He has no grudge against killing people, but he has not yet developed the habit of killing people on sight. Seeing his boss fainted, Li Anping grabbed the phone and began to recall the phone number in his mind. Although he didn't memorize Li Qian's phone calls specifically, those calls were made by himself on his mobile phone. With his brain's superhuman memory, when he started to recall, countless pictures appeared in his mind just like a computer search. A few seconds later, the picture was frozen at the moment when he entered the phone number. Li Anping dialed the number, but there was a message on the other side that the phone had been turned off. He frowned and tried Sun Hao's phone again, but it was still turned off. Then came Xia Yunyun's phone, which was still turned off. He didn't know that because several people were under house arrest, their mobile phones had been confiscated a long time ago. After so many days, even if they were not turned off, they would have run out of power. How could he possibly make a call? Now Li Anping felt that he was in trouble. Li Qian and the others might still be caught. After he absorbed Song Bang, his strength increased greatly, and he felt that even a 5th level ability user could no longer deal with him. As for the military, he believed that unless he was hit head-on by nuclear bombs, positron cannons, ion beam weapons, or weapons that could produce ultra-high temperatures or ultra-low temperatures, most other conventional weapons would no longer pose a threat to him. Even for those weapons that could kill him, as long as he prepared enough souls for regeneration in advance, there was nothing to fear. Li Anping was fed up with the government's interference in him and the corruption at the top. So he would kill those scum officials, so after Song Bang framed him, he would go to kill them. It's time to let the land beneath my feet move according to my will. Li Anping was a little excited when he thought of this. Even if I kill more bastards, it will not have much impact on the functioning of this society. There will still be people who do evil, kill, rape, and rob, and the oppression of the top on the bottom is still ubiquitous. I hate this kind of society. Incompetent people, relying on their bloodline and background, occupy high positions and enjoy benefits far beyond ordinary people. And even if ordinary people put in several times or 10 times the effort, their achievements in life may not be 1/10 of theirs. But as long as I control this society, although it may not be perfect, I will make it as fair a world as possible. Now, Li Anping obviously has the power to do this. But before that, he still planned to rescue Li Qian and the others. Li Qian's abilities are very useful to him, and it is also an opportunity for him to show his power to the Daxia government. Thinking of this, Li Anping laughed, and he rose into the sky, making a huge sound of breaking through the air, and flew towards the town that the boss just pointed to. The village was left in a state of panic. At 2 o'clock in the morning, more than 10 black cars drove into a manor. The usually quiet manor was now brightly lit, and there were soldiers with guns and live ammunition everywhere. You could even see several armed helicopters flying over at low altitude from the edge of the manor. When the motorcade stopped, Yajiao, Lu Feng and others walked out. There was already someone waiting for them in the manor. The group walked into the hall and could smell the smell of blood before they even opened the door. This is the 6th incident in 2 days. Yajiao frowned as he looked at the scene in the hall. There were 4 corpses in the body, 3 of which had their necks cut open and were lying on the sofa. Because the artery was severed, the thick blood was left on the ground, and the pungent smell kept entering Yajayo's nose. The other person fell to the ground with a penetrating wound to the heart in his back. Different from Yajayo's face full of disgust, Lu Feng carefully observed every corner and said slowly, "It's him." He used the same method as at the base. He probably doesn't know that his identity has been exposed. If Qianduoduo hadn't seen him, it would have been difficult for us to discover that it was him. Lu Feng's nose twitched a few times, followed the burning smell, came to a corner, squatted down, and stretched his hand towards a socket. With a click, he pulled out the socket, and he could see that the wires inside were charred black. Sure enough, he used electric current to move. So the peripheral surveillance videos and guards didn't notice it. Lu Feng had a puzzled expression on his face, but I still don't understand how he entered the base. What should be used there is independent power supply, external lines cannot be connected. Who knows? Yajayo's face looked ugly. Anyone who encountered such an opponent would not look good. He has too many methods he can use to fight in the city. There are too many electrical appliances here. Lu Feng suddenly turned his head and looked at the door. Several family members of the deceased were crying and making a fuss, trying to break in. The other party's status was obviously not low, and the guards didn't dare to stop them. "It's almost done. Let's go first," Lu Feng said. Lu Shen nodded. The 4 people who died this time were all from the Lu family of the 9 Kings group. He didn't have time to get entangled with such a big family now. In the black car, Lu Feng said, "He has killed more and more people, and his status and identity are getting higher and higher. At the beginning, it was just ordinary officials, but today's dead are already people from the 9 Kings. We don't have much time left. If this goes on, the whole Tianjing will be in chaos. How long do you think we have left?" 3 days to a week, Lu Feng murmured. "He is testing now. He is testing whether General Song and General Xia are really unable to fight. And the sneak attack on the base obviously made him 80% sure, so he is becoming more and more unscrupulous now. If Songbang still doesn't show up in a few days, I'm afraid it will be time for him to tear his face off." Probing. Lu Sheng smiled bitterly. "Just a probing is enough to make us flustered." 4 people died in the hall, and it was not until 2 hours later that a servant discovered it. Now even His Majesty has taken refuge in a temporary shelter and cut off all external circuits. Lu Feng said, "The situation is indeed not optimistic. To be honest, if we keep the battlefield in the city, I am afraid we have no chance of winning." He shook his head. "Now our only advantage is that he may think that we have not yet noticed his identity." Lu Shen nodded heavily. In 2 days, including the attack on the base, a total of nearly 400 people have died, and this is the result of the other party not using all their strength. Once the other party confirms that there are no level 5 ability users in the entire Tianjing, they will face a level 5 ability user who is unscrupulous and has no room for conversation. What's more, the ability of the Thunder Emperor is most suitable for fighting in a modern city. As for the ability of the Thunder Emperor, they are very familiar with it after fighting with the Flame Dragon Vanguard of the Ice Castle for many years. Just being able to transform into electric current and move along the circuits in the city already makes him invincible. And once the Thunder Emperor starts to destroy without scruples, just creating a blackout and a big fire will be enough to disrupt the order of Tianjing. If he has another thunderstorm, I am afraid that most of Tianjing will collapse. But in a place like the capital, the top government officials will never agree to use weapons of mass destruction until the last moment. Even if they are used, the effect against the Thunder Emperor is unknown. In the past, Tianjing was guarded by 1 to 2 level 5 ability users all year round, and the Thunder Emperor did not dare to come rashly. But now both Feijiang and Zhurong are on the northern border. Facing the offensive of the Flame Dragon Vanguard, they have no chance to come back. Once one of them comes back, I am afraid that the entire northern line will collapse soon. But if they don't come back, once Tianjin is destroyed by the Thunder Emperor, the situation will not be much better than the collapse of the northern line. Thinking of this, Lu Sheng smiled maliciously. Those people above, including His Majesty, must be having a headache now. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 122. One day later, at noon, the base of Daxialonke was still busy, with staff walking around and construction teams busy renovating the circuits of the entire base. Qianduoduo and Sun Hao had already changed into their original uniforms and walked into an office. You all know the situation, right? Lu Sheng looked at them and said, the situation is critical now, and we need your help. In fact, with Qianduoduo and Sun Hao's strength and position, and they had no direct relationship with Song Tian's death, if SpecialAbilities was still awake, they would not even be arrested. Even if SpecialAbilities is gone now, if it weren't for the pressure from the Song family, they would not have been under house arrest for so long. However, facing the pressure from the Thunder Emperor, even the Song family dared not be so arbitrary, not to mention that there was no news from Song Bang, which made people more uneasy. In order to deal with the Thunder Emperor, of course, the combat power of Qianduoduo and Sun Hao could not be left unused. Of course, there is another reason, that is, the news of the True God Church has gradually spread. Although it is not 100% confirmed that Qing Chan is a level 5 ability user, the scene of his battle with Li Anping has indeed been confirmed by many people. Recalling Song Bang's disappearance and Li Anping's killing of Song Tian, many people have to be cautious. What about Xia Yunyun and Li Qian? Sun Hao asked. Lu Sheng shook his head, they can't. They are directly related to Song Tian's death. The Song family is keeping a close eye on this aspect. In addition, their strength is too weak. Even if I want to excuse them, I can't. And now in Tianjin, maybe it's safer in the cell. Qianduoduo looked a little haggard, and the deep dark circles on his face seemed to indicate that he was in poor spirits during this period. After hearing what Lu Sheng said, he asked gloomily, you don't want us to help you deal with the Thunder Emperor, do you? Yes. Seeing Lu Sheng nodded in agreement, Qianduoduo turned around and walked out of the office. What are you doing? Sun Hao pulled him back and looked at him puzzled. I'd rather go back to the cell than deal with the Thunder Emperor. Qianduoduo sneered, looking at Lu Sheng and said, have you seen the Thunder Emperor? Have you fought him? No, Lu Sheng said calmly. So you don't understand his horror at all. Qianduoduo said word by word, this is definitely not as simple as looking at the information and data. The horror of the Thunder Emperor, may be even greater than that of Song Bang. If it is in the wild, there is still some possibility. But in the city, that is his home ground. He can be replenished with energy everywhere, and he can't be trapped anywhere. Before he creates greater chaos, let Zhu Rong or Fei Zhang come back. This is the only way. Lu Sheng shook his head, I can't control them. And they definitely can't come back now. The situation on the North Line is not much better than Tianjin. We have no choice now. Sun Hao asked, is there any way to restrain him? The experts of the Academy of Sciences are already studying the ability of the Thunder Emperor with all their strength. Unfortunately, you should know that this kind of thing 11 Neng had cracked it long ago. We have set up an expert group to follow up and study almost every level 5 ability user of Yanlong Pioneer in our base. Yi Sheng sighed, but now the only thing we can be sure of is that it is no different from the past 10 years. To deal with the Thunder Emperor, we must lead him to a place where there is a lack of circuits and far away from the city. Pure electronicization has too high resistance in the air. Even if he is a level 5 ability user, according to our calculations, the distance he moves in the air each time he turns into lightning will not exceed 100 meters. And this consumes a lot of energy, and he will definitely not use it more. Although it is still difficult to deal with. But at least it is much better than in the city, where he can get into the circuit at will. Sun Hao nodded, then count me in. After speaking, he looked at Qianduoduo again. Qianduoduo snorted and said unhappily, then do you have a way to lure him out of the city? The bait is ready. The only problem now is whether we can eat it. Lu Sheng said seriously, I don't expect to kill him, but at least he must be seriously injured. Otherwise, the whole Daxia is in danger. Now that Songbang is missing, everyone is looking at this side. Baiyu, Fulun, Yingxi in the south. Dongyang in the east. Ice Castle in the north. Let's not talk about these. Even in China, Yukidao, Fuxinghui, and those local organizations are all eyeing them. Once they think that the power of Daxia Dragon Bird is not enough to suppress them, how bad the situation will be, you should understand. Okay, I know what you said. Qianduoduo glanced at Sun Hao, who was expecting, and said helplessly, count me in. After Li Anping flew to the town, he was too lazy to communicate with others. He just took a few clothes to change, then found a map, scanned it with his eyes, and remembered the entire map with his amazing memory, and then flew directly to Tianjing. At the same time, he looked at the time and found that he had slept for more than 10 days. He was a little worried about Li Qian's situation. After all, her ability is very useful. He flew and stopped along the way, and had to confirm the location from time to time. Fortunately, his speed was fast enough, and he was flying, and his memory was strong enough, so the whole map was in his mind. So although he got lost several times in the middle, he had to land on the ground and confirm the direction according to the road signs. He still arrived in Tianjing before dark. After arriving in Tianjing, he first went to Sun Hao's house and found that the whole house had been empty for a long time, and even the doors and windows were sealed. Li Anping looked around and walked to a pancake stand and ordered 2 pancakes. Boss, do you know why the room in the building opposite was sealed? Oh, the second floor opposite? I heard that the murderer was caught. There were so many people that day. Let me tell you, the police, the army, and the fire brigade were all here. The area within 500 meters was sealed. I heard that the murderer was hiding inside and took hostages. Finally, the army was dispatched, and the gunshots could be heard hundreds of meters away. Li Anping frowned and took a bite of the pancake. The boss's words seemed to be vivid, but they became more and more outrageous as time went on. However, one thing is certain. Li Qian and the others were indeed taken away, but there were no signs of explosions around the house, nor were there any signs of damage such as craters. It seems that there was no conflict between the two parties. Maybe it was because of Qianduoduo and Sun Hao's identities, or maybe it was because Songbang was not there. But since the house was still sealed, it is very likely that they are still in the hands of Daxia Longke. Li Anping had no problem breaking in directly, but he was afraid that the other party would threaten him with Li Qian. Before the other party knew his whereabouts, he wanted to rescue Li Qian secretly. Just as Li Anping was eating pancakes and thinking, a man in a full black suit and sunglasses walked in front of him. Hello. Are you Mr. Li Anping? The last moment was calm, but the next moment, a shocking murderous intent suddenly appeared. The man in sunglasses felt a tingling sensation behind his head. He was like standing at the door of hell and was gently brushed by the corner of the god of death's clothes. The murderous intent retreated immediately and disappeared without a trace. The man touched his palm, which was already full of sweat. What a terrible momentum! The man's sense of superiority before coming, as a secret department, the condescending attitude has all disappeared. He clearly understands that at this moment, his life is no longer in his own hands. Tell me your identity, purpose, and how you found me. I am Antero from the secret agency. Antero wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. The secret agency is directly under the Emperor's Majesty. In terms of the authority within the government, it is still higher than the Great Xia Dragon Bird, but our specialty is not combat effectiveness, but intelligence. Seeing that Li Anping didn't say a word, Antero could only continue, since you and Songbang disappeared together, I have been assigned here to monitor. As long as you find your whereabouts, report it immediately. The places under surveillance also include SpecialAbilities' home, Songbang's home, the training room you used before, and all the places we think you may appear. Oh? You know a lot, Li Anping glanced at Antero. The other party's physical fitness is very good, but unfortunately he is not a capable person, so Li Anping is not worried about the other party playing any tricks, and then asked, then why did you come to me? Because His Majesty wants to talk to you. Antero swallowed his saliva and handed the mobile phone in his arms to Li Anping. It shows that the call is in progress. When he heard the word Your Majesty, Li Anping couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. There is only one Majesty in Daxia now. He is the Emperor who lives in the Imperial City and rules the entire Daxia. Hello, Li Anping. I am Wang Chong. This conversation has really kept me waiting for a long time. That night, a car took Li Anping into the Imperial City and didn't send him out until an hour later. What he and Wang Chong said and talked about during the period, no one knew except the two of them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 123. 10 o'clock in the evening, on the highway outside Tianjin. A convoy was moving forward, and in the middle of the convoy was a white ambulance. However, there was neither a hospital logo nor red and blue lights. The unconscious Yalikan was lying on the bed in the ambulance. Lu Sheng sat in the co-pilot seat. In the back car, in addition to a doctor and a nurse, Qian Duoduo and Sun Hao were also sitting. Since Yalikan met Li Anping that time, he has been in a coma and has never woken up. Although his body is still alive, it is unknown how long it will take for his consciousness to wake up. The internal experts of Daxia Longke have examined Yalikan many times, but have not come to any useful conclusions. Qian Duoduo sat in a chair, his right foot kept shaking, and he looked at the left and right sides of the car from time to time. He looked a little nervous. Sun Hao, on the other hand, closed his eyes and leaned against the backrest, resting his mind. No one spoke in the car, and the atmosphere was extremely dull, as if some invisible pressure was spreading in the air. At this moment, Sun Hao's eyes suddenly opened, and there seemed to be a flash of lightning in his eyes. Here it comes. Everyone's attention was raised to the highest level in an instant, and at the same time, a flash of lightning fell from the sky. The lightning struck the first car in the convoy, and all the drivers behind subconsciously stepped on the brakes and turned the steering wheel with both hands, trying to bypass the car. The car wrapped in lightning exploded in the next moment, and the whole car turned into a huge fireball. Don't worry about him. Go. Under Lu Sheng's command, the rest of the convoy rushed towards the flames and passed by the exploding car. Just behind them, a tall blond man silently watched the convoy gradually go away, and then his whole body was shining with lightning. With a step, he had already caught up with it at an astonishing speed. At the tail of the convoy, a man came out of the co-pilot of a car, holding a machine gun and shooting at the blond man desperately. The bullets splashed on the man's body, making a sound like metal collision, and they were all knocked away directly. Don't use a gun. Ordinary weapons can't even break his mind. But the next moment, the running blond man stretched out his hand and aimed at the convoy. A flash of lightning flashed across his palm. It seemed that something shot out, like a meteor streaking through the sky. The trunk of a car was torn without warning, and then a big hole was torn in the driver's stomach. Then the engine box in front of the car made a loud noise, and the whole car rolled out of the guardrail. Then came the second car, the third car, from the blond man's hand to the three cars being penetrated by unknown attacks. Everything happened in less than a second. Duo shouted in the intercom, "It's an electromagnetic gun. Don't line up if you don't want to die." The remaining ambulances and 3 cars scattered instantly. The blond man sneered, raised his right hand suddenly, and then slashed at the last car in the air. A lightning bolt shot out from his finger, and under the blessing of mind energy, it turned into a straight lightning sword, slashing down from the middle of the vehicle. In an instant, the entire car was split in two from left to right, and the broken body of the car flew backwards, brushing against the blond man's body, and finally turned into a flaming wreckage. Then he stretched out his palms to the remaining 2 cars, and under the illumination of the electric light, he slightly opened his 5 fingers, and the next moment, he put his hands together. The 2 cars collided with each other with a bang under the pull of electromagnetic force. "Jump out of the car," the moment Lu Sheng shouted. He had kicked open the door of the ambulance. Sun Hao and Duo were not much slower. One of them held SpecialAbilities, and the other held the doctor and nurse, and jumped directly out of the ambulance. Almost in the next second, the 2 cars pulled by the electromagnetic force had soared into the sky, bringing a gust of wind from the sky and smashing into the ambulance in front. Amidst the loud bang, the 3 cars collided violently. The blond man clenched his hands hard, and the 3 cars were like being pinched by an invisible palm. After a series of harsh metal pulling sounds, they had become a large pile of steel garbage. The blond man waved his hand, and a large pile of car wreckage rushed towards the people who jumped out of the car at an astonishing speed. Duo threw the nurse and doctor aside, turned around and looked at the car wreckage that was rushing towards him with amazing momentum, roared, and pushed it away with both hands. The telekinesis rushed to the car wreckage like a tide, and with a bang, the wreckage was pulled by electromagnetic force and telekinesis, and turned into countless fragments and shot in all directions. The fragments were too fast and too many, and before they could react, they had already pierced Duo and Lu Sheng's bodies. In order to resist the attack for SpecialAbilities in his arms, Sun Hao's back was already a bloody mess. Looking at the 3 people kneeling on the ground and SpecialAbilities lying on the ground, the blond man slowly walked over. "Hello, you can call me Thunder Emperor." Then, Thunder Emperor walked to SpecialAbilities, turned his head over, and carefully observed his appearance. "Goodbye." But the next moment, SpecialAbilities' face twisted and changed, turning into Zhu Rong's face. "You've been fooled." "What?" At this moment, Thunder Emperor's mind changed drastically. Knowing Zhu Rong's ability too well, he chose safety first and chose to electrify his body in an instant. This is also the transformation of his body after level 5, which can transform his body into countless electrons, like a creature composed entirely of electric currents, and most ordinary attacks will be ineffective. When he turned into an electron, he could move through the air like lightning, with an average speed of 100,000 kilometers per second. Unfortunately, the resistance of the electric current in the atmosphere was too large, so even he could only move no more than 100 meters, which was equivalent to an instant movement of 100 meters. With a flash of lightning, the Thunder Emperor appeared 100 meters away from Zhu Rong, but the next moment, when he felt the other party's mind, he angrily said, "Level 4 ability user, you are not Zhu Rong." Zhu Rong laughed, and his face changed, and he had become like Lu Feng. "I said, you were fooled." Duo waved his hands fiercely, and Sun Hao beside him had already soared into the sky with the blessing of mind power, rushing towards the Thunder Emperor 100 meters away. Facing the aggressive Sun Hao, the Thunder Emperor just pointed at the other party, and the next moment, the powerful current on his fingertips formed a blue light gun, shooting at Sun Hao at an absolute speed of more than 200,000 kilometers per second. Facing such a fast attack, Sun Hao had no way to dodge, but he didn't need to dodge. The electric gun hit Sun Hao, but he didn't react at all. There was not even a trace of black on his body. Because Sun Hao could control the current in his body, he was not afraid of pure electric shock damage. "Huh," Thunder Emperor frowned, and Sun Hao had already rushed in front of him. Facing Sun Hao, who was close at hand, Thunder Emperor subconsciously punched out. Before he could figure out the opponent's ability, he wanted to rely on his mind to absolutely crush the opponent in terms of level and blast him into slag. But this punch was only halfway out, and Thunder Emperor found that his eyes were black. His eyes could no longer see anything, and there was only darkness in his eyes. Lu Sheng in the distance stared at Thunder Emperor. Depriving the vision of the 5th level ability user through his ability, even if it was only for a few seconds, was an unimaginable burden on him. His head was buzzing and blood was flowing from his nose. His ability can deprive people of their vision, but the stronger the opponent's spirit and will, the weaker the effect of his ability. Level 5 ability users, whether in spirit or will, have obviously reached the peak of human beings. However, in the few seconds he persisted, Sun Hao did not disappoint his expectations at all. Electric light surged all over his body. These electric currents were not only his own, but also those from the Thunder Emperor just now. The speed of his body reached the limit under the stimulation of the electric current. He saw his hands with a residual image, and he had already blasted the Thunder Emperor, who had lost his vision. Shoulders, chest, stomach, knees, crotch, neck, in just a few seconds, the vital parts of the Thunder Emperor's body were attacked by hundreds of punches. Although he was hit by hundreds of punches, under the protection of the mind, Sun Hao's punches only made the Thunder Emperor feel a little pain at most. At the moment he regained his vision, Sun Hao had already left a residual image and flew backwards. And Lu Sheng's eyes went black, and he couldn't help but half kneel on the ground. Although he didn't faint, the pain in his brain was like thousands of needles, and he couldn't use his ability in a short time. Almost at the same time when Sun Hao flew back, Hong Fangzheng pulled the trigger in a car 2 kilometers away. The Gauss sniper rifle in his hand shook slightly, and the electromagnetic bullet, driven by the magnetic field, instantly crossed a distance of 2 kilometers and arrived in front of the eyebrows of the Thunder Emperor. But it was only in front of the eyebrows. The bullet was still spinning desperately, but no matter how hard he tried, there was an insurmountable barrier in front of the Thunder Emperor, and he couldn't get through. This was the electromagnetic shield of the Thunder Emperor. No metal object could approach him without his consent. In the enemy behind area like Daxia Tianjing, he almost kept the electromagnetic shield on 24 hours a day. How is it possible? Hong Fangzheng looked at the Thunder Emperor in disbelief. He didn't expect this bullet to kill the Thunder Emperor, but at least it could injure him. He knew clearly that the bullet blessed by his ability was more than 3 times the power and speed of the original electromagnetic bullet, but even so, it still couldn't hurt the Thunder Emperor. Looking at the bullet that kept spinning in front of his brow, Thunder Emperor stretched out a hand and slowly grabbed it in his palm. He looked at the bullet, and then at the 4 people in front of him. It seemed that all the attacks just now were child's play. His eyes swept over Sun Hao and the other 4 in front of him, and looked at the direction where the bullet came from 2 kilometers away. Have you figured out the situation? Who is in front of you? Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 124. Level 5 ability user, Thunder Emperor. Of course we know, Lu Sheng said, covering his chest. Before he finished speaking, he heard various sounds, the sound of cars, human footsteps, and the sound of airplane propellers. Hundreds of armored vehicles, tanks, armed helicopters, and countless soldiers with live ammunition surrounded the location of Thunder Emperor and his men from all directions. Among them were dozens of Daxia Longke ability users, led by Yang Guang, whose half-body had turned into diamonds, all of whom were staring at Thunder Emperor. Lu Sheng and his men planned to lead Thunder Emperor out by transferring the fake SpecialAbilities message. It was simple, but very effective. Because even if Thunder Emperor suspected that this was a trap, facing a level 5 ability user who had no power to resist, this temptation was enough to prompt him to take risks. Lu Sheng looked at Lei De nervously and suddenly said, Lei De, I know you are very powerful, but in a situation like today, even if you break out of the encirclement, it will not be easy, right? Many of us may die, but can you be unscathed? Oh? What do you want to say? Lei De looked at the army around him and smiled. Lu Sheng swallowed and said, you can leave today, but you are not allowed to enter Daxia within a year. Let's pretend nothing happened, how about it? As soon as Lu Sheng finished speaking, Lei De laughed dumbly, but before he could answer, Sun Hao stood up and wanted to refute. How can this be? Let him go today, it will be difficult to lead him out of the city next time. But just as he was about to speak, Qian Duoduo held his shoulders and shook his head at him. How could Lu Sheng really make such a stupid request? He wants to delay time. On the other side, several men behind Yang Guang just wanted to speak, but they were all stopped by him. Want to delay time? I'll help you. Yang Guang also spoke up and said, you have done enough in Tianjing, right? General Song may come back at any time, don't let him leave even if he wants to. There was silence in the air for a while, and the Thunder Emperor looked at the Daxia Dragon Bird's ability users with contempt, and slowly said, if Song Bang was really still alive, you wouldn't be standing in front of me now. You can leave if you want me to. The Thunder Emperor looked at everyone proudly, wait until I kill you all. There was no negotiation, no compromise. Facing these level 4 ability users and ordinary soldiers, the Thunder Emperor had no intention of giving in. The lineup sent by Daxia in front of him was indeed very strong, but that was only for ordinary people. For a level 5 ability user, just to break through the protection of his mind, 99% of the people in front of him couldn't do it. As for the two things of Songbang's disappearance and SpecialAbilities coma, the Thunder Emperor can now completely confirm their authenticity. It's not arrogance, let alone arrogance. Without the constraints of the same level ability users, the current Tianjing is like an amusement park for him. All you need to do is step on it and crush the opponent to the ground. Do it? Yang Guang turned into a diamond giant and rushed up first, followed by Lu Sheng and other long-range superpowers, and then the main guns of the tanks, the rockets on the armed helicopters, and countless soldiers pulled the trigger and fired bullets. In the distance, snipers like Hong Fangzheng also launched attacks almost at the same time. If the whole picture is still, you can see that everyone is looking at the Thunder Emperor in the center with a hideous face, bullets are flying, the mind is burning, and infinite murderous intent is shrouding the Thunder Emperor. There seems to be something in the air that is agitated. In the next moment, infinite electric light shoots out from the Thunder Emperor, and the power of the magnetic field spreads thousands of meters in radius. Bullets and shells rolled back, rockets exploded in the air, armored vehicles and tanks all turned off, and a series of electric sparks came out of the armed helicopters in the air and fell obliquely towards the ground. At this moment, all the surrounding electronic equipment was paralyzed, and bullets and shells were shot back at the soldiers. The only one who was not affected was the ability user. Magnetic field, electromagnetic pulse. Thinking of this, Qian Duoduo's eyes were filled with despair. This was the strength of the Thunder Emperor. The effect of modern weapons on him was reduced to the minimum. Most conventional weapons were not as effective as fists in front of him. But even if all the weapons and equipment were paralyzed in an instant, there were still two figures who rushed towards the Thunder Emperor without hesitation. Yang Guang's diamond-transformed body was like a landslide wherever he passed. With his indestructible diamond body, he was never afraid of any attack. So even when facing a level 5 ability user, he still dared to rush up and attack. With a thud, Yang Guang's fist slammed into the Thunder Emperor. The diamond-transformed hand shone brightly under the electric light, reflecting a dazzling light. Facing this punch, the Thunder Emperor just stretched out his palm and gently grasped the opponent's fist. Yang Guang's strength was very great. Even if the Thunder Emperor grasped the opponent's fist, he was still beaten back several steps in a row. He was not good at physical strength. But the next moment, he looked at Yang Guang's body as if he was looking at a dead person. Do you know how high the temperature of lightning is? 30,000 degrees Celsius, 3 times the temperature of the sun's surface, came from Thunder Emperor's hand. Although it was only for a moment, Yang Guang still screamed and retreated madly, and the diamond in his right hand had completely vaporized into carbon dioxide. In his horrified eyes, the Thunder Emperor smiled coldly and pointed at him again. A blue beam of light shot out from the tip of the Thunder Emperor's finger, instantly piercing his thigh and vaporizing his entire thigh into carbon dioxide. Not only that, the beam of light shot out more than 50 meters away, and wherever it passed, all kinds of people with special abilities, soldiers and vehicles were turned into ashes. Yang Guang fell to the ground, and the severe pain in his body had already hit him in waves, but what made him even more disappointed was the strength of the Thunder Emperor. He didn't kill me in one go, he was just playing. He was just playing from beginning to end. He didn't take us seriously at all. Without the support of people with the same level of special abilities, we were just trash in his eyes. Regret and fear were entangled, so that Yang Guang no longer had the slightest desire to fight. All this happened too quickly. When Yang Guang was killed in one blow, Sun Hao hesitated and stopped. Qian Duoduo saw him and roared in his heart, "Stupid, come back quickly, do you want to die too?" But in the surprised eyes of everyone, Sun Hao just paused and rushed up again. "Are you crazy? What does he want to do? He will die like this." Just when everyone was thinking this, Sun Hao had already brought up a series of phantoms and punched the Thunder Emperor in the face. Although his face was hit, the Thunder Emperor did not seem to change at all, but his neck tilted back slightly due to the force of the fist. Is he someone who can control electricity? He thought as he looked at Sun Hao, and at the same time, he punched Sun Hao with lightning. With a stronger ability to control electricity than Sun Hao, how could he lose to the other party in speed? A fierce punch whistled, and the air was smashed into a channel by the invisible force, and the fist hit Sun Hao's arm. But this was only the first punch. After the punch, Sun Hao was met with a swift and fierce attack. Boom 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 boom. In the light of lightning, Sun Hao's body flew back. The two punched and kicked each other, like a phantom, and each time caused an air explosion. Sun Hao only felt that each punch of the opponent was both hard and soft, and like thunder. Every time he received a punch and a kick, he felt his hands hurt to the bone. He retreated more than 20 steps in a row, and he was completely unable to escape from the opponent's attack in the storm. The absolute strength gap was like a natural moat, spanning between the two. Suddenly, Sun Hao felt the pressure eased, and saw that the Thunder Emperor's eyes were blank, and his punches and kicks suddenly stopped. He rushed out in time. Lu Sheng in the distance spit out blood again and was helped out by the people around him. On the other side, several Daxia Dragon Bird's ability users had taken the opportunity just now to carry the seriously injured Yang Guang out. When the Thunder Emperor's eyes fell into darkness again, Hong Fangzheng, 2 kilometers away, also pulled the trigger of the Gauss sniper rifle again. This time, the bullet had already emitted infinite light while flying in the air, and an explosive energy spread in the bullet, giving everyone present a feeling of extreme danger. But this feeling lasted less than 1/100th of a second, because he had been easily grasped by the Thunder Emperor. 2 sniping attacks, but you didn't change your position. The Thunder Emperor looked coldly in the direction of Hong Fangzheng. Although he couldn't see the other person's appearance clearly, he still threw the bullet in the direction of the shooting according to his feeling. Do you really think I can't do anything to you? Under the acceleration of the magnetic field, the bullet rushed towards Hong Fangzheng at a speed of 4 kilometers per second like a super electromagnetic gun. Hong Fangzheng, who had used up all his mental energy and injected all his energy into the bullet, couldn't react at all. Even if he was in his prime, he couldn't react to this speed. The car was hit in an instant. A huge fireball soared into the sky, and the kinetic energy carried by the bullet itself, plus the energy injected by Hongfang Zhen, exploded at the same time, turning the hell of 50 meters around the car into a sea of fire. Ah! Looking at the flames rising in the distance, Lu Sheng roared and rushed towards the Thunder Emperor, but was held back by the people around him. Retreat! Retreat! The operation failed. Go! He's catching up. The Thunder Emperor looked at the fleeing crowd and laughed. In the wild laughter, countless thunders fell from the sky, hitting the heads of the crowd, leaving a charred corpse on the ground. Then he rushed towards the disintegrating crowd. In the darkness, a figure carrying lightning rushed left and right. Only vibrations, gunshots, screams, and occasional flames could show the direction of the killing. In less than a minute, hundreds of people had died. Whether they were ability users or ordinary people, at this moment, there was no difference in front of the Thunder Emperor. Rush over, lightning strike, die. See people, electromagnetic cannon, die. Wherever the thought goes, there is a lightning strike. No one can stop the Thunder Emperor for a moment. Despair and fear spread among the crowd in an instant. Fists and feet could not penetrate the mind of the Thunder Emperor, and all modern weapons were completely destroyed by the electromagnetic pulse. The speed of the Thunder Emperor was even faster than Sun Hao. Most people could not even see his figure clearly, and he had already turned into a charred corpse and fell to the ground. Everyone's heart was shrouded in fear at this time. The country, government, and honor were thrown aside. Stay away from this monster, the farther the better. This was the only thought in their minds now. But at this time, a figure went against the flow of people and rushed towards the Thunder Emperor at an incredible speed. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xianglang Guo. Chapter 125. A figure went against the flow of people and rushed towards the Thunder Emperor at an incredible speed. Qianduoduo watched Sun Hao rushing towards the Thunder Emperor without looking back, sighed, and finally used all his telekinesis to roll towards the Thunder Emperor. My old friend, this is probably the last time I will accompany you. Here, the Thunder Emperor looked at Sun Hao with contempt and sneered, do you really think I can't kill you? But just when he was about to punch, he found that his entire body had been restrained by an invisible force. This force was so strong that he was completely unable to move for a while. At this time, Sun Hao had already punched him in the chest, then his neck, cheeks, and fists were blasting towards Sun Hao like a violent storm. Sun Hao was already anxious at this time. Thanks, good brother. At least let me delay a little longer. It doesn't matter if it's 1 minute or 2 minutes. Sun Hao punched the Thunder Emperor on the chin, making a loud noise. Although his body was unharmed, the Thunder Emperor still flew into the air under the influence of this force. Then, there was a sound of breaking through the sky. More than a dozen small dots were seen magnifying under the clouds. Sun Hao, Qianduoduo, Lu Sheng, Yang Guang, and others couldn't help but look towards the place where the sound came from. Coming. Is it finally here? From the beginning of the battle until now, it has only lasted a few minutes, and Daxia Longke has already suffered heavy casualties in order to delay these few minutes. In Sun Hao's eyes, the black spots gradually enlarged. 12 fighter jets flew across the night sky and were flying in his direction. But the hope in his eyes turned into rage at the next moment. A barrel-thick lightning fell from the sky and struck Qianduoduo. The latter's body was charred and black, and he fell towards the ground. Ah! Sun Hao roared and turned around, but was punched directly in the face by the Thunder Emperor and sent flying. At this time, 12 fighter jets swooped towards the Thunder Emperor. Sun Hao was knocked away with a punch and fell to the ground. The next moment, a blue beam of light had passed by his ear, and the tens of thousands of degrees of heat had turned his entire left hand into ashes. He screamed and endured the severe pain and rushed towards the Thunder Emperor. However, he suddenly lost an arm and could not control the balance of his body. He stumbled a few steps and fell to the ground again. Ah! Kill you! Kill you! Kill you! Kill you! Kill you! I'm going to kill you! After getting up, falling down, getting up again, and falling down again after a few steps, Lady looked at Sun Hao with a trace of disdain on his lips. If shouting a few words will help, why do you need us? He took out an iron egg from his tactical pocket and slowly pointed it at Sun Hao's head. Go to hell. The electromagnetic gun shot out, but missed slightly by a few centimeters, grazing Sun Hao's head. Lady felt that his hand seemed to be pushed by a force just now, and then he missed the shot. Lady looked at Jianduoduo's body in the distance. The opponent's raised palm was slightly loosened, and he had lost the last of his strength. At this time, the 12 fighter jets in the sky flashed fire under their fuselages, and a total of 48 missiles were fired at the Thunder Emperor on the ground at the same time. Of the 48 missiles, except for 12 with conventional charges, all the others were cloudburst bombs and thermobaric bombs. If all these 48 missiles hit the Thunder Emperor and exploded, even he would have no chance of surviving. As for the geological changes, environmental changes that these missiles will cause, as well as the impact of the explosion point being too close to Tianjin, Daxia senior officials have no time to consider it. Daxia Longke had already paid a huge price just to delay the Thunder Emperor at a certain location. The Thunder Emperor looked at the 48 missiles fired from him and laughed dumbly. He just stretched out his right hand and made a movement to prohibit passage. The next moment, 48 missiles stopped at the same time. They all turned off at the same time in an instant, and then slowly changed their direction under the control of magnetic field force. What do you think of these missiles being fired at Tianjin? Someone shouted, detonate it directly. Hurry up and explode. But there was no response. The Thunder Emperor had taken control of the missile. In everyone's desperate eyes, the missile's propulsion device burst into flames again, and all of them were shot in the direction of Tianjin. How is that possible? Is he already able to control electronic devices? This is no longer a simple magnetic field. Whether it was Yajiao Shen, Yang Guang who had escaped far away, or Sun Hao who was close at hand, they all watched in disbelief as the missile flew towards Tianjin. The hope of severely damaging or even killing the enemy Thunder Emperor was now about to become a fatal killer. Has he been able to accurately control electric current to control electronic devices? Yajiao was confused for a while. When did his ability reach this point? He was just playing from the beginning to the end. Yang Guang looked stupidly at the missiles in the sky passing over his head, and sighed. From the beginning, he could kill us all in an instant, but this to him it's just a game, like a cat killing its prey. Complete despair has enveloped everyone's hearts. They have no way to stop the Thunder Emperor. Now it seems that the Thunder Emperor's strength is much stronger than in the past data. Even if Songbang comes back now, I'm afraid they are no longer a match for the Thunder Emperor, let alone them. After this battle, I am afraid that the entire Daxia government is standing naked in front of the Thunder Emperor, and there is no power to resist. Most of them fell to the ground as if they had lost their souls, because at this moment, their future is already dark. Linging on the Thunder Emperor snorted coldly, swept the people around him, and then looked at the missile flying far away, cracked his mouth and laughed. This ability to control electronic equipment was only recently practiced. Although it has little destructive power against people of the same level, it is simply invincible when used against modern armies. This is why the Flame Dragon Vanguard sent him alone to Tianjin. Even if there are people with stronger abilities than him, the damage to modern cities is definitely not as good as his. But the Thunder Emperor's smile only lasted for a moment, and then it froze. In the distant night sky, a figure soared into the sky and hit the missile at lightning speed. No, it didn't really hit the missile. He flew into the sky and stepped on a missile. If you zoom in, you can see a man in black combat uniform stepping on a missile, the long knife in his hand gently scratching the missile, and then the man jumped up and jumped onto another missile. The whole process was extremely fast. From the eyes of the Thunder Emperor, he could only see the black shadow passing over the missile group at a very fast speed, and then a total of 48 missiles exploded behind him at the same time. That distance was beyond his control. The red flames dyed half of the sky red, but the Thunder Emperor's eyes were fixed on the black figure in the air. After the black figure destroyed the missile group, it rushed over directly. Although the distance was too far, the Thunder Emperor could not see the other person's appearance, but he could still feel that the other person's eyes were staring at him. An inexplicable fear came from his chest, and the Thunder Emperor couldn't help swallowing his saliva. The other person's eyes made him feel ominous. Just such a look that could not be seen but only felt. The Thunder Emperor actually felt that this was a long-lost fear. He hasn't been afraid for many years. When he thought of this, 2 seconds had passed, and the figure had crossed a distance of thousands of meters and rushed towards the Thunder Emperor. This speed was simply unbelievable. There was no time for the Thunder Emperor to react. In the next few seconds, the figure had crossed thousands of meters and was only a few hundred meters away from the Thunder Emperor. Almost subconsciously, the Thunder Emperor had completed the electronicization and teleported to a distance of 100 meters behind him. Just 1 second after he teleported away, there was a bang, like a meteorite hitting the ground. The whole earth kept breaking, countless cracks spread in all directions, and the place where the Thunder Emperor stood the moment before had become a meteorite crater. Li Anping held the high-frequency knife in one hand, and the blade flashed with a strange red light. He just stood quietly in the center of the big pit, looking at the Thunder Emperor. "Aren't you in pain?" "What?" The Thunder Emperor seemed to feel something, and suddenly looked at his right hand, but the original position of his right hand had become empty. Where was the right hand? Blood spurted out from the wound of the broken arm, staining the ground under the Thunder Emperor red. The whole place was silent. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 126. Time goes back a few minutes. At that time, Li Anping was lying on a piece of grass, looking up at the sky, and thoughts came to his mind. This afternoon Li Anping entered the imperial city and talked with Wang Chong. The other party hoped that he could help Daxia Lonke fight against the Thunder Emperor and promised countless benefits. However, Li Anping did not agree and instead made a special request. This request was immediately rejected by the other party. Then the two broke up unhappy, and Li Anping was sent out of the imperial city. After leaving the imperial city, Li Anping could feel that someone was following him, but he didn't mind being followed. Any emperor, after understanding his strength and knowing that he was in Tianjing, would probably not send someone to keep an eye on him. Not long after Li Anping lay down, Antero, dressed in black, suddenly appeared behind Li Anping. "Mr. Li Anping." Li Anping glanced at him and said, "Has Wang Chong changed his attention?" "Yes, His Majesty said that he agrees to your request, but requires you to immediately go to support Daxia Lonke. They have already suffered heavy losses there." Li Anping nodded, stood up, and stretched. "Have you brought the equipment I want?" Antero clapped his hands, and several men in black suits came out and handed the combat uniforms and high-frequency swords to Li Anping's hands. Li Anping's combat uniform and high-frequency sword had long been damaged by lightning. Li Anping took off his casual clothes and put on a tight-fitting black combat uniform. This black combat uniform was even better than the one he wore when he went to the True God section after wrapping the entire body except the head. Various heat insulation, bulletproof, impact resistance, air circulation, and filtration systems are turned on, making the inside and outside become two worlds. Antero inserted the headset into Li Anping again and said, "Direct satellite call, as long as you are still in the eastern continent, you can contact us. Li Anping nodded, put the headset into his ear and asked, "Where is the Thunder Emperor?" Antero pointed to the wristband of Li Anping's combat uniform on the bed and said, "It's a GPS. We've entered their current location into it. You can see it when you open it." Li Anping turned on the switch on his wristband and saw a small screen on his arm light up. Inside was a map. The green arrow on the map obviously represented Li Anping, and a red dot flashed in the north of the map. With a staff member on the side walked up to Li Anping and placed the special alloy scabbard on Li Anping's back. Li Anping reached behind his back and pulled out the Gao's Hubo knife. A red and coquettish light shot out from the blade, and a wave of heat came from it. The vibration frequency of this high-frequency knife is still higher than Li Anping's previous one. Because of the current heating and vibration, the temperature is also extremely high. Antero's phone suddenly rang on the side. He hurriedly opened his cell phone and answered the call. "Hello? Hello? Well? What? I understand, I will explain it to him." Antero kept nodding in agreement, with cold sweat on his forehead. After hanging up the phone, he hurriedly said, "Mr. Li, please move out quickly. The Thunder Emperor controlled 48 missiles to shoot at Tianjin City, leaving only the missile will hit in the next half-minute." Before he finished speaking, Li Anping had already rushed into the air with a bang, and then paused for a moment. There was a loud noise in the air, and a wave of air came out from under Li Anping's feet. His whole body had already cut through the atmosphere, heading towards the missile flew in the direction. Time returns to the present. Lei De looked at Li Anping solemnly. His broken arm was lying quietly at Li Anping's feet. "When? Shouldn't I have escaped by now? Before I get out of the way?" But Thunder Emperor had no time to think about these issues. Whether it was the standing hairs, the cold sweat on his forehead, or the slight trembling on his skin, everything was told to Thunder Emperor. The other party is a monster beyond imagination. The soldiers and capable people around him, both far and near, all focused their attention on Li Anping, with expressions of disbelief on their faces. When Song Bang wanted to arrest Li Anping, they had all seen Li Anping's photos. "It's actually Li Anping. He cut off one of Thunder Emperor's hands. How is that possible? He only has the second energy level." Regardless of whether they believed it or not, the facts were before their eyes, especially when Yang Guang saw Li Anping. His expression suddenly changed, and he didn't know what he was thinking. "He's here?" So Song Bang really lost. From the other direction, Lu Sheng stared at Li Anping and said, "He won. Did he really win?" A second-level ability user defeated a fifth-level ability user. Li Anping didn't care about their looks. He just glanced at Lady and walked to Qianduoduo. He squatted down and touched Qianduoduo's body and said to Sun Hao, "He's not dead yet, but if you don't hurry up, treatment is still life-threatening, so you should send him away first." At this moment, Sun Hao had just gotten up from the ground. When he heard these words, he immediately ran over and asked, "Is it true?" Li Anping nodded, looked at Sun Hao's broken arm and the injuries all over his body, and said to the people in the distance, "You guys, take them to the hospital." The few capable people were stunned and looked at each other, wanting to say something. However, whether it was the silence around them or the terrifying strength displayed by Li Anping, they were speechless. After hesitating for a few seconds, just walked towards Qianduoduo. When Li Anping saw this, he turned around and walked towards Thunder Emperor. Sun Hao suddenly grabbed his shoulder and whispered, "Be careful." Li Anping didn't say anything, just nodded. From the beginning to the end, Lei De stood still and did not move at all, even when Li Anping turned his back to him and checked Qianduoduo's injuries. Because ever since Li Anping appeared, there has been a huge pressure on him, and it has nothing to do with mind energy or ability. That was the purest intuition from the Thunder Emperor's mind. He felt that as long as he made the slightest move, he would be struck by the opponent like thunder. The opponent's speed was too fast. The Thunder Emperor knew that to deal with such a person with extreme speed, one must concentrate 100% at all times. The slightest carelessness would lead to death. Everyone stay away. Seeing everyone around him leave quickly under Li Anping's order, Lei remained unmoved and stared at Li Anping closely. Li Anping didn't speak again until everyone left their sight. "Aren't you going to run away?" Li Anping pointed at the opponent with a high-frequency knife and said. Lei's expression changed, and he looked at Li Anping with a cold look in his eyes and said, "Boy, don't think that you can be proud just because you successfully attacked me once. If we really fight, it's not certain who will win. If you want to escape in the city, just go electronic and get into the wires." "I can't do anything to you," Li Anping said calmly, "but here, you don't even have the qualifications to escape." After Li Anping said these words, Lei only felt a slight chill on his neck, and then his vision shook, as if the whole world had become upside down and chaotic. His head had been chopped off by Li Anping and flew into the sky. Boom! The Thunder Emperor's entire body instantly transformed into a ball of lightning, which spanned a distance of hundreds of meters before reappearing. In the human body that was recomposed of lightning, the wounds on the neck and arms had disappeared. Except for the pale face of the Thunder Emperor, it looked as if he had not been injured. His chest kept rising and falling, and he looked at Li Anping in shock. It was also a supersonic attack. He and Songbang had also fought against each other before, but now Li Anping was much faster than Songbang. Anyway, Lei didn't know how fast Li Anping was. The feeling given to him by the other party was that he was almost invisible, as if he was beyond all sights and sounds. "How many more times can you perform such a teleportation?" Li Anping's voice came from behind Lei, like a cold breath blowing on his heart. Lei suddenly roared, "Try this trick. This is the Thunder Emperor's most powerful attack, the Infinite Thunder Prison." The moment the Thunder Emperor spoke out, the high-frequency sword in Li Anping's hand turned into hundreds of after-images, and the Thunder Emperor's body was instantly cut open by countless sword rays. But the Thunder Emperor, who was cut into countless pieces, did not die, but turned into a ball of endless thunder and lightning. After knowing that Li Anping's speed reaction was completely superior to his own, Lei immediately chose to activate all the thunder and lightning in his body to carry out a large-scale attack. Because he understood the monster in front of him, his railgun, electric shock, and teleportation were useless no matter how fast he was, because he couldn't react to the opponent's movements at all. If he continues to fight like this, he will only be eaten alive. In the Thunder Emperor's body, more than 3 billion volts of voltage and more than 100,000 amps of current were flowing simultaneously. The temperature at the center of the electric ball he formed reached 35,000 degrees Celsius in an instant, far exceeding the temperature of the surface of the sun. The earth melted and cracked in an instant. The air is heated to such a high temperature and expands violently, forming a shock wave. Then the Infinite Thunder Prison exploded with energy comparable to a small-yield nuclear bomb, and the huge light even filled the entire Tianjing. But under the control of the Thunder Emperor, his destructive power was completely concentrated within a radius of 1 kilometer. The clouds were blown away, and a large crater dozens of meters deep was blasted out of the ground. Yajiao and others who had already escaped far were blown dozens of meters away by the shock wave. They all turned around and stared back in shock. A huge beam of light composed of thunder and lightning shot straight into the sky. After a few minutes, the light beam and smoke slowly dissipated. Beside the large crater, which was hundreds of meters in diameter and tens of meters deep, Lei was lying on the ground. His eyes looked dull, his face was withered, and his muscles were atrophied, just like a dying old man. The explosion just now had exhausted all his mental energy and electricity, let alone electronics. At this moment, he felt like he couldn't even lift a finger. "Although I killed this guy, Daxia Lonke's gang of miscellaneous fish will definitely come over. Lady thought, we must leave here before they come over. Better to find a place where I can absorb the electricity. Thinking of this, Lady used all his strength to push himself up. After several attempts, he slowly stood up. He is too weak now. I need to take a short break to regain my strength. At this moment, a strange sound came from the depths of the pit. A trace of surprise and uncertainty flashed across Lady's face, and he looked at the bottom of the pit with disbelief. The vaporized earth kept emitting bursts of high temperature and steam, making it difficult for the Thunder Emperor to see what was underneath. But as the sound grew louder, he could gradually see a figure slowly crawling out from the bottom of the pit. How is that possible? Li Anping was seen walking towards him at the edge of the pit step by step. His combat uniform and high-frequency knife had long disappeared, and the places where his two arms were originally were empty. His whole body was covered with tattered wounds, and there were even countless granulations on his face that were moving, as if he wanted to regenerate, but he had no energy. You monster! Thunder Emperor looked at Li Anping stupidly as he appeared in front of him, and the fear in his heart surged out, monster! How could someone not die after being attacked head-on like this? You actually have the ability to regenerate. Looking at Thunder Emperor's horrified expression, Li Anping slowly exhaled and said, amazing attack. If I didn't have the ability to regenerate, I'm afraid I would have died. Not only your strength, but also your judgment and execution ability are also amazing when you can use this attack immediately after understanding the absolute speed difference between us. But now you still lose. Do you have any last words to say? Thunder Emperor stared at Li Anping blankly. The gray in his eyes became heavier and heavier. He was too weak, and in his eyes, only deep despair and fear could be seen. Nothing else to say, Li Anping raised his right foot and stepped on the chest of the Thunder Emperor. Then rest assured, you will become my strength, and I will rule the whole world and let all human beings operate according to my will. I will create an utopia. With a click, Li Anping stepped on the Thunder Emperor's lungs and exploded. The strong man under his feet twitched slightly and died completely. And Li Anping's body made a series of muffled sounds. His hands began to grow, and the skin on his face gradually regenerated and closed. His body continued to rise to an indescribable and ineffable realm. At the same time, a faint black figure slowly floated out from behind him. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xianglang Guo. Chapter 127. In the Imperial City. Li Anping, who was wearing a black combat uniform, threw the withered head of the Thunder Emperor on Wang Chang's desk. From now on, Daxia Lonke is under my control. All matters related to ability users in Daxia are also under my control. Wang Chang looked at him with a livid face and said, what if I don't agree? Then I'll kill you. It's useless for you to kill me. The 9 royal families will not let you go, Wang Chang said with a look of hatred on his face. If I die, they will only elect a new emperor, and then you will face the entire Great Xia. Then I will kill the new emperor. I will keep killing here until you compromise. Wang Chang stared at Li Anping, but the other person's eyes were as cold as icebergs, and he saw no sign of weakness. From today on, you control Daxia's rights, and I control your lives. Northern Line. Under the snowy mountains of Jisla. In a field of snow. A figure covered in blood was running away quickly. He never moved, always 1 meter above the ground. He looked like he was gliding, but he was moving very fast. But every few hundred meters, he couldn't help but look back, with a nervous look on his face, as if something terrible was chasing him. Bits and pieces of blood spilled from his body onto the snow, forming a red trail. After a few minutes, he stopped. Because there was already someone waiting in front of him. It was a man whose hair burned like flames. Zurong, why? Asked the man covered in blood. The man called Zurong said calmly, do you need a reason, Flying General? How many years have we fought side by side, the flying general said angrily, you are betraying your own nation. Ha ha, Zhurong laughed. Why are you laughing, the flying general yelled. Flying general, why are you and Xiaoligang so naive, Zhurong said coldly, nation, country, society. These things are just a group of mortals who gathered together to fight against the strong. As fifth level ability users, we have the power of gods and have transcended the ordinary world. No matter whether it is the country or the nation, it has nothing to do with us. It should not become a shackle that binds us. As a fifth level ability user, you have godlike power, yet you are still dedicated to serving those mortals. It really makes me sick. Then when you betrayed me for the Flame Dragon Pioneer, wouldn't you be working for someone else? You just changed a master, as the flying general said. He couldn't help coughing continuously. I saw a series of blood foam leaving the corners of his mouth. At this moment, the ground beneath their feet suddenly shook, a hole opened in the ground, and a man's voice came from inside. This is different. Zhurong just chose the winner. Flying General, as a fifth level ability user, you have a lifespan several times that of ordinary people. There is no need to be buried with the entire Great Xia. The Flying General looked at the crack in the earth and said bitterly, White Dwarf. In mid-air, an elegant blood shadow descended from the sky carrying the billowing wind. Yes, you are already the last level 5 ability user in Daxia. Regardless of whether you surrender or are killed by us, Daxia is doomed. During your escape, the Thunder Emperor should have removed Tianjing from the map. Erase it? The Flying General's body burned with golden thought energy, and the surging momentum soared into the sky, even making the other 3 people present couldn't help but take a few steps back. Needless to say, if you want to invade my motherland, then just step over my body. On that day, an earthquake with a magnitude exceeding 8.5 occurred within 100 miles radius. The snow on the entire Jisla Snow Mountain was melted, and mudslides and floods swept through 6 nearby cities. A total of 40,000 casualties were caused. At the same time, Daxia Dragonbird's 5th level ability user Flying General disappeared, and Zhurong, who was also a 5th level ability user, announced that he would join Ice Castle's Flame Dragon Pioneer. As soon as the news came out, Tianjing was shocked. For a time, the cloud of war enveloped the entire eastern continent, and all countries were plunged into turmoil. On the western continent, a disease called cannibalism broke out on a large scale. When the Amastrian Federation's ability user force, the Imaginary Number Agency, was dealing with the epidemic, a fierce conflict broke out with the Amastrian Federation branch of the Star Alliance. Human history is once again heading in an unknown direction. I saw that there weren't many words at the end, so I just posted it together from today until the end of next week. This book has been recommended. This is also due to the support of all my friends. I would like to thank you all. At the same time, I hope everyone will continue to support me in the next week. I am asking for recommendation votes and collections here. Thank you all again. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xionglang Go. Chapter 128. The explosion of the Thunder Emperor that day had a huge impact on the entire Tianjing. Almost half of the city heard the earth-shattering explosion. A huge beam of light rose into the sky. Countless people took photos and uploaded them online. But almost immediately, all these online photos were deleted. Combined with the damage caused by Songbang and Lianping in the city some time ago, all kinds of speculations, doubts, rumors, and gossip spread like wildfire. There are even some rumors about the existence of superpowers, which are rapidly fermenting among the common people. Although there are still very few people who believe them, some people are no longer completely denying the existence of superpowers like before. Coupled with the major earthquake in the north, many ordinary citizens or dignitaries quickly and spontaneously evacuated Tianjing. However, most people still stayed, and the habits they had developed over the years made them choose to trust the government. It's hard to say who is right or wrong between the two, as neither has all the information about the current situation. It is just a judgment based on many years of social experience. At present, most of the people who have the clearest understanding of the situation in Daxia are concentrated in Daxia Lonke's base. Different from the busy base with people coming and going in the past, Daxia Lonke's manpower at this moment is probably the smallest in history due to the killing of Thunder Emperor. Everyone passing by seemed to be in a hurry and had a worried look on their face. It seems that he is worried about the fate of the Empire and his own fate. In a huge office on the 15th floor underground, Li Anping was sitting on an office chair, wearing a blue and white uniform. At his desk, Li Qian was reporting in a short skirt uniform. After Wang Chong handed over Daxia Lonke to the leadership of Li Anping, Li Qian was assigned as his assistant. There is no news from the 9 royal families yet. Li Qian was holding a thick newspaper and a notebook full of her handwriting. But they all already know about your defeat of Qing Chen, Song Bang, and Thunder Emperor. According to intelligence, they are currently planning to adopt a laissez-faire policy towards you. After all, there is probably no one who can compete with you in Daxia. However, there may still be some temptations. Yes, Li Anping nodded. How is your ability? Have you reached the first level? Yes. I didn't expect that after being under house arrest for so long and doing nothing but eating and sleeping all day long, my situation has escalated. Li Qian smiled and said, it seems like I might as well just eat, drink and have fun every day from now on. Li Anping smiled, is there any improvement? Li Qian thought for a while and said, now if you want to monitor ordinary people, you only need to know their name and appearance. For ability users, the number of times has also been reduced. Level 1 ability users need 1 question, level 2 need 2 questions, all the time to reach level 5, you need to ask 5 questions. Li Anping nodded with satisfaction and said excitedly, okay, great. Now I can monitor almost the entire Tianjing, and even most of the Xia dynasty. He continued, you go to the database today and collect all the agencies. All leaders above the director will monitor it and then give me the newspaper. He said seriously, remember, never disclose your abilities to anyone. Starting today, I will still be responsible for checking this information. You just need to maintain the number of monitors. Okay, Li Qian nodded to express her understanding. At this moment, there was a knock on the office door, and Li Anping said, come in. I saw Lu Sheng and the blonde boy Momo standing outside the door. When they saw Li Qian, the two sides nodded to each other. Li Qian nodded towards Li Anping, then I'll get busy first. Go. Li Anping waved his hand and turned his attention to Lu Sheng and Momo. When Li Qian closed the door, the entire office fell silent. Li Anping looked at the two of them with a playful expression, but didn't say a word. Lu Sheng's eyes were open, and he kept looking at Li Anping without showing any signs of weakness. Momo, on the other hand, stood behind Lu Sheng. Being stared at by Li Anping, it seemed that he couldn't bear the pressure and couldn't help but twist around. Don't be nervous. I came to you because I have something to tell you. Li Anping picked up a piece of information on the table and asked, Yajiao, your ability is dark vision, right? It can make you see in various dark environments. Seeing things can also make the opponent's eyes fall into darkness, which is a good auxiliary ability. Li Anping glanced at Momo again and said, your ability is electronic information feedback, right? You can directly use brain waves to receive and feedback electronic information. Although it is not a combat ability, its value is much greater than ordinary combat abilities. Seemingly feeling the pressure, Yajiao frowned and said, our abilities must have been registered as early as when we joined Daxia Lonke. I don't know what the hell the adults are asking us to do. It's very simple. I hope you can help me. Li Anping said, I have just taken over Daxia Lonke, and I am not familiar with many things. If there is enough time, it will be fine. I believe that with my power, I can completely destroy Daxia Lonke. It's not a problem to have it in hand, but time is too tight now. The flying general disappeared and Zhurong rebelled. The ice castle may move south anytime and anywhere. I must seize every moment to concentrate my strength. Deal with them. Lu Shen wondered, why are you looking for me? With the power you have shown, I'm afraid no one in the entire Daxia Lonke would dare to disobey you. On the surface, that's true. Li Anping nodded. Daxia Lonke is an organization of ability users. Of course, the ability users among them value their own strength the most. After each of them discovered that they had superpowers, they almost felt confident that they were the protagonists of the world and would be invincible from now on. This confidence will gradually disappear until he joins Daxia Lonke and meets more ability users. Strength is what they value most. Only the most powerful among those with abilities can convince them. This was the case with Songbang and SpecialAbilities in the past. Li Anping's record of killing the Thunder Emperor was enough to convince most of the ability users in Daxia Lonke. But among Daxia Lonke, there are not only those who believe in abilities. A considerable part of the management of the ability users in Daxia Dragonbird come from the 9 royal families. Facing me, who grew up as a commoner, it is difficult for them to obey 100%. There are also ordinary people who do not have superpowers. They tend to fear power and wealth more. Li Anping spoke eloquently. Besides crushing opponents with strength, I am not good at other things and I am too lazy to learn, so I need you to help me integrate the power in the hands of Daxia Lonke. Were you and Momo both discovered among civilians? The same goes for Hong Fangzheng, but it's a pity that he died. As long as you do what you do, no matter what happens, I will help you. When they heard Hong Fangzheng, the expressions of Lu Sheng and Momo darkened. When they heard Anping's last words, Lu Sheng's eyes lit up. You said I can do it no matter what I do. Even if I kill someone who disobeys the one who commands. As long as the result is good, you can help me actually master the power of Daxia Lonke. You can do whatever you want. Li Anping looked at Lu Sheng and said, I promise that no one can threaten you. How about it? Yajiao immediately realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, an opportunity that would allow him to reach the top of Daxia. Originally, this opportunity would never happen in Daxia, which was controlled by the 9 royal families. But Li Anping now used absolute power to clear the obstacles for him. I understand. Yajiao nodded heavily. I will do my best. After Lu Sheng left, Li Anping's eyes became blurred and he began to think about the current situation. The biggest threat now is the Flame Dragon Vanguard of the Northern Ice Castle, and the rest are the major organizations in the country, as well as a dozen small countries in the south, all of which are ready to make a move. But the latter is not a cause for concern. Even if they do break out, Li Anping alone can go over and talk to them in person, which is enough to solve the problem. The key to the matter lies in the current 4 ability users of Yanlong Pioneer. Although I don't know why, Ice Castle has never broken through the northern line. After Yanlong Pioneer defeated the Flying General, there was no follow-up news. But everyone knew that they could go south anytime and anywhere. Li Anping dug out the opponent's information. Zhurong, a parasitic type, capable of ejecting temperatures exceeding 6,500 degrees from the body surface. In the battle where the Flying General disappeared, it was he who melted the snow in the entire snow mountain. White Dwarf, a mutant type, can freely enter and exit the earth and control mountains. The density of its body is astonishing. Since its debut, it has never been injured. During the battle to siege the Flying Generals, an 8.5 magnitude earthquake was caused due to his relationship. There is also a Blood Demon, one of the 4 Great Dukes of Ice Castle, whose ability is blood-based blood-sucking disease. In addition to them, there is also Pluto, who is considered to be the most powerful Esper in Ice Castle. No one knows what his ability is yet. If it was a one-on-one confrontation, Li Anping might choose to take the initiative now, but since learning about the death of Thunder Emperor, the other party has been very alert. Zurong, White Dwarf, and Blood Demon all appear at the same time every time. As for Hades, he has never appeared since his last sneak attack on SpecialAbilities. We should try to ask Li Qian to monitor the people in Ice Castle to see if he can find Hades. But in the end, it's my strength that ultimately depends on me. Li Anping looked at his current physical fitness and found that his strength had improved to 16.5, speed 15.7, and physical fitness 17.5. With his current strength, he is confident that he can defeat most level 5 ability users 1v1. But it happened that the opponent now had 4 level 5 ability users. One level 5 ability user was already a mobile natural disaster and a self-propelled nuclear bomb, let alone 4. So one of his current goals is to find a way to make the other party stand alone so that he can absorb another level 5 ability user. Another direction is to directly enhance his own strength. He already has some ideas for this, but it still requires manpower and time to realize it. And he recruited Yajiu before to prepare for this matter. Experience after experience made him understand that only strength is the only one. Strong strength and absolute power are the ultimate means to dominate the world. If he could eat all 4 level 5 ability users in Ice Castle, Li Anping believed that his power would be elevated to a level beyond human imagination. So what he has to do now is to accumulate strength according to his own plan, and at the same time monitor the opponent at all times to catch the mistakes of Yanlong Pioneer. A black thought suddenly appeared behind Li Anping. His face changed and he murmured, "Are you here again? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Go. Chapter 129. I saw a black mind coming out from behind Li Anping, forming a black figure behind him, and then quietly stopped moving. The black figure was about 2 meters tall and translucent, with a blurry face and body. This was not the first time Li Anping had seen this black figure. Since he absorbed the soul power of the Thunder Emperor, his ability level has reached the 3rd level, and the range of his soul absorption has reached an unprecedented 300 meters, but at the same time, when he was alone, sometimes a black mind would come out from behind him, forming a human-shaped shadow. At first, Li Anping thought that Hesu had woken up, but this figure was like a puppet, unable to communicate or make any movements. It would suddenly appear and then disappear when Li Anping was alone. Li Anping tried to control him with his mind, but it didn't work at all. But he could feel an unknown huge power in the black figure. A few minutes later, just like the previous situation, the black figure suddenly collapsed, turned into countless smoke, and dissipated into the air. Li Anping felt that every time the black figure appeared, the power contained in it was stronger than the last time. He suspected that this was either a problem with the black figure, or a unique change after his ability reached the 3rd energy level. At the same time, in the palace, the top leaders of Daxia also questioned Li Anping's current problems. On a round-table meeting, 9 old men sat opposite each other, and behind them, each of them had 2s and 3s of followers. An old man of the royal family blew his beard and said, "Your Majesty, how can you let a civilian manage Daxia Dragon Bird? He is the head of the Sun family. It's too messy, it's just nonsense. Without our vote, not even a meeting, and no discussion, just let a country boy take over Daxia Dragon Bird casually. It's unprecedented." The speaker was the head of the Li family, a bald and fat old man. A middle-aged man with a fat brain said, "Take him down. Daxia Dragon Bird is our most important force. How can we let an outsider manage it? He is the head of the Zhang family." Wang Chong just looked at them coldly without saying anything. But an elegant middle-aged uncle beside him knocked on the conference table in front of him and said, "If he could refuse, why would he go up? Everyone, have you all forgotten the strength of a level 5 ability user? He is the head of the Xiao family. The head of the Zhang family, who was full of fat intestines and looked like a short melon, said disdainfully, according to the latest information, Li Anping is just a level 3 ability user. Xiaoqianjun, don't fool me. Wang Chong glanced at the short melon coldly, and his heart was even more disdainful. Haven't you even read the most basic information? The 9 most powerful royal families in Daxia are actually led by such a person who is just sitting there and eating for nothing. While Wang Chong was thinking, Xiaoqianjun, the head of the Xiao family, said, Old Zhang, you didn't read Li Anping's information carefully, did you? He killed Song Bang and Lei Di himself, and he has the strength comparable to that of a level 5 ability user. As for how strong a level 5 ability user is, I don't need to explain it to you. If we can use force to deal with a level 5 ability user, we would have used it long ago. Next to Xiaoqianjun, an old man with a goatee said, Qianjun is right. The level 5 ability users in Daxia have appeared for more than 40 years. We can only absorb them for so many years. It is impossible to eliminate them. Fijiang, Zurong, Xiaolikan, all of them are like this. The old man with a goatee is the head of the Gao family. He didn't mention Song Bang because Song Bang belongs to the Song family and can be counted as one of them. That's right, Xiaoqianjun added, and Li Anping has the strength comparable to that of a level 5 ability user. Now the Flame Dragon Vanguard may go south at any time. He is our only support. The head of the Li family who spoke just now said disdainfully, the greater the power that cannot be controlled, the more dangerous it is. The head of the Gao family, the old man with a goatee, laughed and said, control? In the past, Xiaolikan, Feijiang, and Zurong, we could control them 100%. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, which can we control? As soon as he finished speaking, several other heads of the family around him also rushed to join the discussion, and the scene suddenly seemed a little out of control. Suddenly, one by one, the white-haired old man stood up, slapped the table and said, Li Anping killed Song Bang, this matter cannot be let go. Hearing him say this, all the heads of the family present fell silent, and no one catered to him. This white-haired old man is the temporary head of the Song family. Because Li Anping killed Song Bang, their family status plummeted, and the power of the Song family has been shrinking again and again. Naturally, they regard Li Anping as a thorn in their eyes and a thorn in their flesh. But other families don't care about these. They don't want Li Anping to have too much power, but that doesn't mean they want to go against Li Anping. How powerful are level 5 ability users? The information about level 5 ability users in their family can fill a football field. After a long silence, Wang Chong looked at everyone, clapped his hands and said, everyone, it is Li Anping's request to take charge of the great Xia dragon bird. I just want to ask you, after reading his information, do you have a way to stop him? This time the silence was longer, and finally Xiaoqianjun stood up and said, regardless of other things, just the fact that his flying speed has exceeded the speed of sound, without using weapons of mass destruction, there is no chance at all. So I don't agree with the use of force. With the Ice Castle watching covetously, dealing with Li Anping now, regardless of success or failure, is like cutting off one's own arm. The short and fat head of the Zhang family sneered, then just watch him take power. Hold the great Xia Longke in your hands. That represents all the ability users in the entire country. You just hand it over casually like this. It's not casual, Xiaoqianjun argued with reason, I have read Li Anping's resume. Using force is the next best thing. We don't need to fight him head on. He wants to lead Daxia Longke, which is fine. But all his men are our men. We can understand what he wants to do and test his bottom line. He is only one person and does not have his own eyes and ears. Whatever he wants to do must still be done through our people. We can meet part of his proposal, but we can conceal or falsify other parts, or even most of his other requirements. What if he finds out? Who will take the responsibility? Asked the head of the Li family. So besides that, we can also use some small tricks. Xiao Qianjun smiled mysteriously. Li Enping is only 22 years old this year. Although he has powerful power, he is too young. You think this kind of young man will like him? What? We can give him money, beauty, power, and fame, and even through these things, we can slowly guide him in the direction we want. The old man from the Gao family with a goatee said, yes, in addition to family ties, you can also use family ties. I have read Li Enping's information and he has several good college classmates. There are also his uncles and aunts who are now in China both. Although the relationship is not very good, it is still an entry point and can be used to increase strength. Someone dug out a piece of information and said, when he was in Emerald City, he assigned a police officer named Qin Yang to take over Zhonggai Hall. Although it was just a casual move, we can also investigate their relationship. Don't forget that there is Xia Yunyun. Xia Likan was kind to Li Enping. Xia Yunyun lived with him and the two of them had frequent contact. Maybe we can persuade Xia Yunyun. And Li Qian, she seems to have a good relationship with Li Enping. You can also find someone to talk to her about. The scene suddenly became lively again, but the head of the Song family was silent, his face gloomy, and he didn't know what he was thinking. However, the people around him were obviously not interested in this. After Song Tian and Song Bang died in succession, the power of the Song family was greatly reduced. In addition, Wang Chong deliberately suppressed it, and the Song family had offended Li Enping. People from the other 8 major families would obviously not consider standing up for the Song family. He even expected that the Song family would become increasingly depressed and give up the interests that originally belonged to him to the other 8 major families. At the end of the meeting, Wang Chong nodded and set the tone, then let's end today's meeting. Everyone should follow the policy just now, but don't test it too obviously and don't annoy Li Enping. Especially if you let Li Enping get angry. All your own abilities should be restrained and don't fight him. The inheritance of the royal family's bloodline is not easy and cannot be lost in this place. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 130. The next day, Li Enping entered the base and noticed changes. In the following situation, this change became more and more obvious. Female nurses, female security guards, female soldiers, and female secretaries. Li Enping found that during this period he could see fewer and fewer men. Almost all the people around him became women, and all of them were young, beautiful, and moonlighting. Shame on the flowers. Li Enping felt like he was living among flowers all day long, surrounded by countless beauties all the time. However, these women are obviously very measured. They do not stick to Li Enping all the time, but do their own things. Everyone will appear near Li Enping, but they all leave as soon as they touch it, as if they are doing business. But if you look at the beauty Li Enping more often, you won't find it annoying. Besides, he knew that this was a test from the people above who were worried about him. If he is distracted, completely ignores these women, concentrates on doing things, and looks like he wants to monopolize power, those old men may not be at ease. Therefore, Li Enping also allowed them to show off their talents and think of ways to seduce him. And Li Enping knew that as soon as he opened his mouth, none of the beauties in the base would have any objections. Even if Li Enping wanted to catch them all, there would be no problem. On the contrary, it will make those above feel more at ease. But Li Enping didn't do that. It's not that he has no interest in beautiful women, it's just that now he is more focused on pursuing powerful power and being able to transform the world according to his own ideas. The military base is full of female soldiers wearing black stockings and mini skirts. Is Daxia Longke now so weak that it needs such women to protect it? Listening to Li Qian's sour voice next to him, Li Enping smiled slightly and did not refute. He knew that Li Qian was just losing her temper. Tell Wei Zun that I'm going to find him, Li Enping asked. Yes, Li Qian nodded, he is already waiting for you. Okay, you go on to expand the surveillance crowd, and I'll go talk to him first. After saying that, Li Enping left first, leaving Li Qian alone to look at the passing beauties in uniform with hatred. Li Enping controlled the speed, dodged a few times and left the base, then flew into the sky, and disappeared without a trace after an explosion. Those who followed him and monitored him were completely helpless. At the same time, Wei Zun's recent events were recalled in his mind. Since the last time he saw Wei Zun, until this period of time, the other party has been doing his best to operate funds for Li Enping. It may be because Li Enping helped him avenge his great revenge, or it may be because of the mysterious strength and background revealed by Li Enping. Not only did Wei Zun dare not embezzle any money, he even made his company suffer losses in order to clean up the money Li Enping gave him. Of course, through Li Qian's ability, Li Enping can monitor Wei Zun every day and is not afraid of the other party hacking his money. With the number of people Li Qian can currently monitor, coupled with Li Enping's current memory and analytical skills, not to mention Wei Zun, he can have an overview of all major and minor events in Tianjing. In an office building, Wei Zun was sitting on a chair a little awkwardly. Suddenly, his vision blurred, a strong wind blew by, and Li Enping was already there. Any defensive measures are useless to Li Enping now. Ordinary humans and monitoring devices can't even see his fast-moving figure. Wei Zun was startled when he saw Li Enping appear. When he saw the person clearly, he stood up immediately, but he didn't know what to say. Don't worry, I don't have any ill intentions in coming to you. Li Enping glanced at Wei Zun calmly and said, you have done a good job during this period. Wei Zun said nervously, it's nothing. This is my old profession. I have been doing it for so many years and I have already become familiar with it. Li Enping nodded, you don't have to worry about the funding problem in the future, it will only increase. But I will also trouble you to do a few things next. You said. Li Enping took out a list from his arms, pointed to the hundreds of names on the list and said, these are all unofficial biological, medical, genetic, and other scientists in Daxia. Most of them may not be qualified. Knowing the existence of ability users, I now hope that you will recruit most of them, at least half of them. Wei Zun looked at the list, frowned and said, it may cost a lot of money to recruit them, and most of them work in large hospitals, research institutes, and large companies, and have their own research projects. Let them throw them away. I'm afraid it will cost a lot to come here. With all due respect, can I ask about your purpose? If you just want to open a biological or pharmaceutical company, you don't need so much. Li Enping shook his head and stopped Wei Zun from continuing, you don't have to worry about money. Within the next week, your company will receive a government grant. All you have to do is set up a biotechnology company and add the people on the list to experts are recruited. Government funding. Wei Zun's heart skipped a beat. He knew that once this kind of thing involved the government, it would be a mess. Just when he was hesitating, Li Enping said again, if there is anything you can't handle, just talk to yourself and I will hear it. This is actually because Li Enping can know what Wei Zun said through Li Qian's ability to monitor Wei Zun, but when he said this, it became more mysterious in Wei Zun's heart. Seeing Wei Zun's hesitation, Li Enping said, don't worry, you don't have to worry about the specific operation, and the research has nothing to do with you. You can take 10% of the government's grant, and you don't have to worry about being involved in any dangerous incidents. Wei Zun gritted his teeth and said, I understand, don't worry, I will do my best. But if some people don't want to come, will they just give up? And what about their arrangements at that time? Just find a place for them to stay, and I will arrange for them when they are all here. As for those who don't want to come. Li Enping's finger slid across the list, recalling the massive amount of information in his mind, and finally stopped at the top of the list. Everyone else can give up, the level of these three people should be the strongest among these people, no matter what means you use, you must recruit them. I understand, Wei Zun nodded, but when he looked up again, Li Anping's figure was nowhere to be seen, only a sentence floated from the air. Send me the information of all your company's employees, all of them, with photos. On the other side, a command room in a secret agency had already been in chaos because of Li Anping's disappearance. What happened? How could a good person be lost? Where is the high-speed camera? Why didn't it capture anything? Quickly call the spy satellite and find him for me. Notify the traffic police department, I want all the road surveillance videos in Tianjin. Must find him for me. Until 20 minutes later, a person shouted and stood up, found it, the target is at the intersection of 21st Avenue and 20th Avenue. Li Anping looked at the subtitles displayed on the newspaper in his hand, and a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. Although they can't find me when I want to disappear, if this continues, the monitoring of me will become more and more strict, which may cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. The people in the secret agency probably never thought that their every move was actually seen by Li Anping. Li Qian's ability is too terrifying, especially after evolving to the first energy level. Only photos and names are needed to exert the ability. In just less than a week, even carrots and mud, every time you monitor a person, you will find more targets worth monitoring, and Li Anping will get the photos and names of these people to Li Qian. Currently, the scope of Li Qian's monitoring has exceeded 100,000 people. Even if Li Anping's brain has become more powerful, he still needs to spend 4 to 5 hours every morning to process this information. But the information advantage brought by this is unparalleled. For example, Wei Zun's company, by monitoring everyone, he can ensure that no information that should not be leaked will be leaked next. However, the secret agency cannot lose its surveillance on him all the time. Li Anping thought of Lu Feng. His ability to transform is very useful at this time. If there is such a person, if he becomes Li Anping's substitute, he can use the convenience of Daxia Dragon Bird's position, but hide it from the top and do more things. And the biological project here by Wei Zun requires too much money. Li Anping knows that he may not be able to hide it from the top, especially when he is under such severe surveillance. So he simply allocated 30% of Daxia Dragon Bird's annual funding. In addition, he also plans to select a group of experts from Daxia Dragon Bird to study together with the experts invited by Wei Zun. With the help of Li Qian's ability, he is confident that he cannot leak any important information of this research. However, this project currently lacks a living biology, genes, and heredity, and leaders with high attainments. Who should I choose to be in charge of this ability cloning plan? Li Anping thought, if this plan is completely successful, then it won't be long before I will become an invincible existence on this planet. I still have to take it slowly. Various countries have already conducted related research in secret, but their purpose is different from mine. However, whether it is the construction of the institute, the personnel, the arrival of funds, various instruments and equipment, plus the time spent on the research itself, we have to take it slowly. This is a long-term project. Before that, Li Anping still has to deal with the 4 guys in the north.